still missed archives.
The search for 5 young men began with an abandoned car on a remote mountain road. It wasn't damaged. It wasn't stuck. There was fuel inside. No bodies were found nearby. For weeks, nothing else appeared. Then, months later, the case shifted. Inside a Forest Service trailer, searchers found the decomposed body of one man. Evidence suggested he had survived for weeks, with food and shelter available. Soon after, 2 more bodies were discovered along the road, closer to the car. Later, partial remains were found nearly a mile farther into the wilderness. The 5th man was never found. What investigators recovered was not confusion. It was a sequence of decisions that never fully aligned. And that is why this case remains unresolved. In February 1978, Northern California was in the middle of winter. The area where the events unfolded sits at the edge of the Sierra Nevada mountains, remote, sparsely populated, and difficult to navigate after dark. In winter, temperatures drop quickly, and snow can make even short trips dangerous. The 5 men lived in Yuba County, several hours west of the mountains. They were all in their 20s. Jack Madruga, Bill Sterling, Jackie Hewitt, Ted Vire, Gary Mathias. They knew each other well. They worked similar jobs, spent time together regularly, and shared an interest in sports. On the evening of the 24th of February 1978, the group traveled to Chico, California, to attend a college basketball game. They watched the game, interacted with friends, and left afterward in good spirits. There were no reports of conflict, no signs of distress, nothing to suggest the night would end differently from any other. After the game, they began the drive home. The route back to Yuba County was familiar and straightforward. Under normal conditions, it would have taken only a few hours, but at some point during the night, the car left the main highway and headed east, toward the mountains. This was not the direction of home. The road they took led deeper into colder, more isolated terrain, an area with little traffic and few services, especially at night. Sometime later, the car came to a stop on a remote mountain road. When it was eventually discovered, it showed no signs of damage. There was fuel in the tank. The engine appeared functional. But the 5 men were gone. That was the first confirmed break in the expected sequence of events, and it marked the beginning of the search. The car was found on a remote mountain road deep in the Sierra Nevada, far from the route the men were expected to take. It showed no signs of damage. There was no crash, no mechanical failure, and fuel remained inside. The vehicle was operational. Inside, personal belongings were left behind. Nothing suggested a planned abandonment. More importantly, the car offered immediate shelter. It blocked the wind and provided far more protection than the open terrain. Yet it was left behind. There were no signs of a struggle near the vehicle. No evidence the men were forced out. The decision appeared voluntary. The road the car was parked on led deeper into the mountains, away from towns and assistance. Turning back toward the main road would have reduced risk. That option was not taken. From this point forward, every outcome was shaped by that single choice. The first discovery came months after the car was found. While exploring the area, a 16-year-old named Roger Koch entered a Forest Service trailer. Inside, he found the decomposed body of Ted Wire. Evidence suggested Wire had survived for weeks. Food was stored inside the trailer. Much of it remained untouched. The shelter offered warmth and protection, yet it had not been fully used. Soon after, 2 more bodies were discovered. Jack Madruga and Bill Sterling were found along the road leading back toward the car. Their locations formed a rough line between the trailer and the vehicle. They had not reached it. Later, partial remains of Jackie Hewitt were found nearly a mile farther into the wilderness. The discovery was made by his father. The distance suggested continued movement, not collapse at a single point. One man, however, was never found. Gary Mathias left no confirmed trace, no remains, no explanation. The discoveries followed a sequence. not random, not chaotic. But the logic behind that sequence was never fully explained. Over the years, multiple explanations have been proposed to account for what happened. None have been officially confirmed. All have limitations. One of the earliest explanations focused on disorientation. It suggested the men became lost after leaving the main road. Darkness, cold, and fatigue may have impaired judgment. However, this does not fully explain why they abandoned a functioning car. Another explanation involved weather conditions. Sudden snowstorms and freezing temperatures could have escalated risk quickly. But there was no evidence of extreme weather forcing immediate evacuation that night. Some investigators considered psychological factors. Stress, confusion, or panic may have influenced decisions. Yet the movements observed appear gradual and organized, not chaotic. The role of Gary Mathias was also examined. Mathias had a history of mental health issues. Some suggested his condition may have affected the group's decisions. There is no evidence, however, that he acted violently or irrationally that night. Others proposed a misinterpretation of threat. The men may have believed the car could no longer be used, or that moving forward offered a safer option, but no mechanical failure was found. Finally, there were theories involving human interaction. An encounter with another person or group was considered. No physical evidence ever supported this possibility. Each hypothesis explains part of the case. None explain it in full. In the years that followed, investigators were not the only ones searching for answers. Families and relatives spoke publicly, trying to reconcile the facts with what they knew of the men. Jack Madruga's mother repeatedly stated that her son would not have abandoned the car willingly. She described him as cautious, responsible, and deeply uncomfortable in cold, unfamiliar environments. Other relatives shared similar views. They emphasized that the group was not prepared for wilderness travel. They were not risk takers. They did not seek isolation. To them, the decisions attributed to the men did not reflect their usual behavior. Despite these statements, no new evidence emerged. The case was eventually closed without a definitive explanation. No single theory was accepted. No conclusion accounted for every detail. What remains is a gap between what was found and what those closest to the men believed they would have done. Decades later, that gap has never been closed, and the case remains unresolved.
Real Mist Archives.
If this case raised questions for you, you're not alone. Many details still divide investigators, families, and researchers today. If you have a different interpretation, or if one element stood out to you, feel free to share it in the comments. If you found this investigation valuable, leaving a like helps the video reach a wider audience. And if you want to follow future cases like this one, consider subscribing. New investigations are released regularly,